1968, more than 2 decades after the disappearance of Captain Will Harrow during the war, Claire Harrow still lives in a small house in Virginia, haunted by suspicions, memories, and shadows of the past. One night after a heavy rain, after reading the last diary of the WWII 1945 box, she fell asleep, but in the dead of night, she was awakened by the faint sound of a train, deepening her suspicions. The sound was not a dull one. It was as if it were passing behind her house. Claire grabbed her coat, tore a piece of paper from the diary, and ran outside. The house lights were dim from the windows, and outside, the glow of an old-fashioned train was passing the narrow road near her house. The miracle was there were no railroad tracks in the village. But the train was clearly visible, with the rumbling of its wheels, the wind blowing and the blackness behind it. Claire stood there, unable to believe her eyes. Inside the terror of the movement, a man in military uniform stood at the end of the train, but a shadow in the light from the side. It was not clear, but he was holding a piece of paper like the photograph she was holding in her hand. A voice whispered in the air, "Claire, get on the train." She stepped forward, but each step was a mental assault. Was it real? A shadow? Or even the devil in her heart? She thought this was the moment she could end her long journey of waiting. But even as she held the last message and pressed her hand directly against the train door, it dissolved into wind and smoke into a silent warehouse building behind the house. But for Claire, she did not lose hope, because every night she still heard his voice calling her again. And on a table in her room, the diary added a new page of its own. "The next station is where we meet again." Claire continued to wait, but this time, not to receive Will Harrow, but to board the train that was the last resort. The Last Station, Part 4 of The Dragon on Train 27. Story: Claire Harrow climbs the stairs to board the train. The soft light from the house lights behind her seems to be slowing down time. The side of the train is a path of the past, the shadows and the cold air touching her skin. Inside, there is no one else, but Claire can hear the sound of coal wheels and a diary lying on the table. The first page is unwritten, but the last page reads, "Come if you are ready." The train begins to move. The journey is not over, but it is not in the same world. The deep black railway line grows wider, towards a station that is not on the map. Claire follows between the planes and the books, floating in the air, some written by Will, some written by the future, and some indecipherable. All lead to a quiet room at the end of the train. There is Mr. Harrow, older than the old photos, but with the same eyes, a feeling of long-standing acquaintance. He said a line that Claire would never forget for years. "You waited. So did I." The train headed toward the Cloudwell. Behind, under the moon, Claire couldn't tell where she was going, but for her, she saw him. She had gone through the waiting and the silence, to welcome a truth that others believed was lost. In the final note of a book, it is still written, "Any love that is not closed even by time will return."